And welcome to the Relationship Restaurant. We are Poppy and Geoff Spencer. This is podcast 55. And here on the Relationship Restaurant, we are all about heart-healthy communication. We're all about love, too. We're all about things about making relationships as good as possible. Today, we're going to talk about an interesting topic, 10 signs that the last relationship you had can actually sabotage your relationship today.
Either you or your partner. And
Right.
Welcome, friends, to the Relationship Restaurant. You know, it's often the case that people enter a new relationship figuratively bringing their unopened baggage with them, like the lack of introspection and emotional examination of the past relationship can really take down your current relationship with your partner. And so in order to have like a loving and deep connection with your partner, it's really important to address the contents before going on to your next relationship. And while you may be able to do that, we're not so sure that your partner hasn't done some emotional unpacking as well. So we decided to call this, here are the 10 signs that are common that we have figured out in talking with many of our clients that we work with, that signs that your partner's last relationship could actually undermine a really meaningful relationship with you.
Okay, the first of these is that you're still talking with the ex, assuming that there's no children involved and you're connected on social media.
So maybe he or she is still connected, your partner is still connected with the ex. And that happens, you know, lots of times, sure, social media requests or it sends you suggestions for friending someone in, and it might be innocent that they say, oh, well, you know, of course I'm going to be friends with my ex because we have 35 friends in common.
Right. It's always hard to not have those overlaps.
Right. So we're huge proponents of not forsaking the ex for the sake of the kids.
When there are kids involved.
When there's kids involved,
there's a divorce
absolutely.
and you've had kids.
You know, it's the only exception to this is to maintain appropriate parental contact and information and communication.
This should be the only really source and reason for communication is because you have the children and you have to talk about holidays and handoffs and grades and health and the usual things that you do have to maintain a good parental relationship in regards to with your ex.
But you still do not have to have social media contacts. If your partner is sensitive or had poor face-to-face verbal experiences with their ex, significantly reduce all that verbal communication and resort to text and emails. There shouldn't be phone calls late at night or in inopportune times where the ex is calling you, even if it's about the children. Because oftentimes, sadly, we see this, that many times
bad interactions.
One of the exes will leverage the opportunity just to mess with your new relationship.
Or just purely intimidate you just because that's what they always used to do.
And they may use that as an excuse to talk about the kids when in fact there's really a hidden agenda there. So your partner should not have communication with the ex unless it's for children. And that should be really limited to, I know certainly in divorces, sometimes they use wizard email, which is what is a court-appointed thing, so that anybody related to the legal process is able to see those messages and emails, and they are allowed in court. And if you have something that's contentious with your ex, or there's a lot of conflict, or it's highly volatile, check into that wizard email. You can ask your attorneys about that.
In fact, this even came up on a recent television show we were watching where one of the partners got a little bit too bad with their language and abusive in the conversation, and the other one said, I guess we're going back to wizard.
Right.
And so that's the kind of thing you have to have when there is very volatile communication going on.
And another way to, and sometimes this just isn't preventable, if your ex is in the same workplace as your partner, if they're ex, we suggest that they minimize contact, be conscious of including the company of others during interactions with the ex so that your partner and the ex don't have a lot of alone time together.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 2, intimacy challenges. So there can often be confusion over emotional and sexual intimacy can be messed up for some couples. People sometimes enter into this new relationship with some very deep feelings of unworthiness. They've been told over and over that they're bad, they're not good enough. They have very little trust in themselves, and therefore the emotional trust is kind of compromised. And sadly, your partner may project their own inadequacies onto you.
And that often happens with many of our partners. In fact, they almost like blame the partner. We always say to change the pronoun, like they do this, they do that. But it's really you that's projecting your unexamined stuff. So open and honest communication is the first step. You can begin by sharing your vulnerabilities, your insecurities with your partner. And this gives them a way to open the talk with you in a safe place. So they can either come with you or you can come alone and also seek professional counseling to get rid of those emotional gremlins that are in the way of a deep and significant relationship.
And we would also just say right off the bat that if there is a big challenge in this new relationship to have open and honest and heart-healthy communication, that right there is a sign that you might be you're just not ready to be in a relationship, or the relationship you're entering into might already have some of its own challenges lurking behind the curtains.
Right. So number 3 on our list of why a sign might be that a relationship is being undermined by a past relationship by your partner is locked devices. This is a pretty seemingly insignificant gesture, but it does speak a little bit to a lack of trust. So we like to say, share your logins and passwords. And if there's resistance or defensiveness, get to the heart of that distrust, but use gentle and honest communication. And as Myers-Briggs certified practitioners, we always have people tap into their Myers-Briggs preferences and know that of their partner as well, so that they can approach this and other sensitive topics and have a much more productive communication.
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight this little point again, too, that people often will say things about Myers-Briggs. Oh, yeah, I did that for work, or I did it a long time ago, or yeah, I've heard about it, but what's it have to do with my relationship? The more Poppy and I study this and understand Myers-Briggs, it is so important to understand these differences that people might have, or similarities. That's often the best thing. But differences, so you can not have these little tripwires where you don't understand why someone is struggling with an aspect of communication or understanding. I'll give you a good example of this. Now, if you're an ENFJ and your partner is an INTP, now we're not going to go into great detail on those two things, but the difference is that they only have one of these areas in common, intuition. One is extroverted and one is introverted. One is a feeler in their emotions, and one's more of a thinker. One can make quick decisions, and one takes a long time to make decisions. So there's a lot of differences there between the two parties. They may be so accustomed to their own autonomy.
Being an INTP.
And maintaining an internal private space, that to have them share what has always been secretive to them may feel suddenly intrusive and uncomfortable.
Right. And so approaching this delicate topic with knowledge of not only your own Myers-Briggs, but their own Myers-Briggs preferences is extremely valuable, because you can tap into your common preference for intuition. That's the one thing that's the thing in both of these examples. And intuition is the way in which we take in information and we instinctively see connections and possibilities and alternatives. And so if that's an open channel there, it's really good. So if I look at the INTP, their traits are they have a preference for being detached. And that can at first seem really harsh to the warm and loving ENFJ. So don't take that personally. That's just the way their brain works most comfortably. They're most comfortable using their thinking and intuition. They can do that without even thinking about it. They don't like to be challenged on principles that are well ingrained in their identity. So it's really important to speak that language so that they can understand that whatever you're saying doesn't come off as attacking or threatening to them.
Now, we're going to give you an example. Be something like this. Hey, I'd like to discuss something with you that's been on my mind.
And using words that relate to thinking, like on my mind, is intentional here.
Exactly. I know that you like privacy, and I respect that. So you're validating them. And I also like to think of us as a couple who has an open and honest relationship. What would you think about both of us sharing our passwords on our devices? And take some time to think about it. Once again, acknowledging their preference for making decisions at their leisure. I mention this because it's important to me.
And so the INTP needs a good rationale, a good reason why something is to be considered or changed.
And my personality is so accustomed to being open and trusting, I want us to both come together on this.
That could be a way to approach a really kind of dicey topic when you know that you have different personality preferences. I know a lot of people have talked about love languages, and we'll even tap into that a little bit later. But the Myers-Briggs is just one other way. It's one small component to really help that heart-healthy communication that we're so positive about here on the Relationship Restaurant.
It's a great way just to further understand each other and just avoid those areas of potential conflict. Okay, number 4, when you fail with an introduction. What this means is, like, if you're in a social environment, you're at a party, you're with people, you're wherever you are, there is no label given to you as to what you are, a girlfriend or boyfriend, etc., that you just be introduced as
Hi, this is Jennifer.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Todd.
And Jennifer was expecting, this is my girlfriend, Jennifer, is what Jennifer
Todd
was expecting.
Is my something.
My significant other, my boyfriend, my whatever. They expect a title of some sort.
And so discuss this with your partner ahead of time in the early stages of your relationship. Ask them, how would they like to be introduced? How will they introduce you? And then agree together. If they stall, if they're hesitant, or if they have a peep for perceiving in their Myers-Briggs, they need a lot more time to think it over. Go back to open, honest communication and find out their hesitancy. Is it just that they need more time? Or is there something else there that needs to be uncovered? And number 5...
And there might be, I'm just going to say, there might be something that needs to be uncovered. It often might go back again to this old relationship that they haven't swept all the items out of their closet yet, that they're still hanging on to certain items that they can't imagine themselves in another relationship.
Right. And then this number 4, this introduction fail, it could be that maybe the partner has allowed everyone else to think in the personal and professional environment that he and ex-girlfriend Angela or ex-boyfriend Andrew are still in the picture, and hasn't figured out a way to tell people that the old relationship is over. And it just makes it for a very awkward thing. So if you can bring that up to the forefront right in the early stages of your relationship and say, hey, do other people know that Todd or Jennifer is no longer in the picture, or Andrew or Angela? I'm just curious. And don't be attacking. Just say, I just wanted to know, so that if we're in a social environment, I don't get blindsided.
Okay, number 5. This is an interesting one. The partner is not yet divorced, but says they will be soon, although no forward movement is happening according to what you're seeing. And we were laughing about this earlier. We were discussing this topic, and I had a flashback to, as I often do, to a movie. I was thinking of when Harry Met Sally, and Carrie Fisher and Meg Ryan were friends, and they were talking about relationships, and Carrie Fisher was dating a married man, and she asks Meg Ryan, you think he's going to get divorced? You really? No, he's never going to get divorced. He's going to string you on forever. And it's just kind of a comical thing that she kept on hoping, Carrie Fisher did, that this gentleman was actually going to get divorced, and Meg was trying to be the voice of reason that no, that's not going to happen. So make sure that you are seeing forward progress on these things.
And a way to do that, again, is researching that Myers-Briggs. At the end of the half hour here on the Relationship Restaurant, we'll offer you an opportunity to delve a little deeper into your own Myers-Briggs and customize a program just for you if you want that opportunity. But talking about, if you know your Myers-Briggs and you're with your partner that has a P of their last letter of their type, that is for perception, that's for someone that is not in a hurry to make a decision. They like to think things over. They like that process time. It gives them a sense of joy, actually, to let things ruminate and run around in their heads. they may not be ready for the divorce. Maybe they're still thinking about the impact for the kids or whatever. And so what you could do is you could gently, again, approach these topics and say, if there's no petition for divorce in the works, although your partner has already said, yeah, I'm going to get divorced, maybe suggest a time frame. How much time do you think you need? Do you need another month, 4 months, a year? And then you have a choice, dear listener, about how you want to do that. If you're not in it for the long haul and you don't want to wait 4 months to a year, you can have a choice. You always have a choice. If your ex doesn't agree, if their ex won't agree, like, oh, my partner says his ex is dragging their heels, they won't get a divorce, they can still get a divorce in most states. If kids must remain in the house and their ex won't leave, your partner can still petition for divorce if you both agreed that you're in this long-term committed relationship. And if there are no kids and the ex insists on staying in the house, your partner needs to petition for divorce and move out.
Yeah, and if none of the above happens, you probably just need to move on. Your partner is not going to change. And I remember talking and working with somebody in the past where it wasn't a threat or a mandate, but this person said that, the interactions, the time I spent with you have been wonderful, but you need to finish where you're at and get this relationship taken care of. I'll be thrilled to hear from you when you have it all done, but you need to get those other things taken care of. I can't be in second place.
And so it's a respect thing, and you can say that to your partner. Say, hey, it's a respect thing for me. I want to make sure that I'm number one in the relationship as you are to me. And so I want to be treated as such. And if you need more time, you can honor that and respect that. But you can also move on if you need to.
Okay, number 6. They project their past relationship issues onto you, their current partner. So you need to come in with a very clean slate. One of our clients' expressions they used to use on a regular basis is, I feel like I'm paying for someone else's crimes here. And this can be the case. If you, again, haven't resolved other issues, you might be projecting them onto your current partner. And even if you think you've cleaned the slate in a very, very thorough basis in every way you can imagine, there's a very, very strong possibility that something will trigger something deep within you, and it'll catch both of you off guard, and all of a sudden you'll figure out something that does make you upset.
This reminds me, we had a client one time that it really surprised us because she was so against receiving cards or roses on her birthday or Valentine's Day or her anniversary. She actually said she was upset. And we were both looking at her like, wait, we didn't understand. And then she further later examined that. She had some introspection why she felt that way. And it wasn't just that her love language was acts of service and her gift giving was a way less dominant preference. It was she realized that her ex-husband, who'd been somewhat verbally abusive to her, used to give her a Hallmark card and a dozen red roses for her every special occasion. And her ex had learned this from his dysfunctional parents, who had a very toxic relationship. And so it was sort of like a double bad whammy of bad associations for her. So the cards and the perfunctory red roses represented disrespect and thoughtfulness in her mind. Thoughtlessness in her mind. And so it was kind of an epiphany for her. This aha thing came through. It's like, what is wrong with me? Why do I not like red roses and cards? That's very thoughtful. For most people, it would be. But because the origin of it came from such a toxic place, she attached that toxicity onto those tangible things that she received.
And it's a very important how you deal with, when you figure out these emotions, how you deal and how you communicate it. And this is a big common challenge that a lot of couples face. So immediately identifying and addressing these feelings that came with this projection, as Poppy was just explaining, is essential. These past criticisms toward your partner can reel their ugly heads when a familiar scenario occurs. And you need to say something like, thank you for giving me these roses in the card. I'm sorry if at first I didn't seem appreciative. I took a look at my instinctive response and I realized I wasn't being gracious at all. And I know you were doing this out of love. I think it was transporting me back in time to when I got these perfunctory gifts with no thought or love attached to them. But so thank you for giving me these roses or card, whatever it might be. Again, there was nothing wrong with the gift.
Right.
It was simply, the association was a very bad one.
So number 7, the 7th sign that your partner may be bringing baggage into your current relationship. Your partner isn't open to being with your kids or your family members. And this often, we've seen this with many of the clients we've counseled, is a huge deal breaker. Your kids are never to be pushed aside. Communicate that to your partner. Share with them that your family life is important. If you now have a blended family, work to get all parties to seek harmony together. Definitely seek professional counseling. That's a start. I have a parenting certification, and we work with many families to blend them in a harmonious way.
And we have 5 children between us, and there's a variety of blends of step and halves.
Yes.
And so we understand all these challenges in a big fashion. But this is an important point. When you're in a relationship with someone, you just can't pick and choose the parts of the relationship that you like. You say, well, I like you, I just don't like your children or the rest of your family. These are package deals, and you need to be looking at someone as a whole. You just can't say, take one part of them, because that'll never be a fair working relationship if you only are unwilling to be open to. And if you are unwilling to look at those things, once again, that's something else you have to look at within yourself.
Yes.
Why am I not being open to this? What is it about this relationship and this that's making me say, gee, I can't do that?
And we've worked with so many people before where the red flags of toxic relationships are right there, where somebody gets married in a blended family and one or both of the spouses, of the new spouses now, will try and alienate that person from their kids, criticize a brother, a sister, an in-law. And those things have to be really examined, even though it's really hard. It could just be that the partner is saying, I don't like your mother-in-law. I mean, that's a classic, right? Or your sister is too involved in our lives. Maybe try and look beyond that, zoom out a little bit and look to see, what is your partner really asking for? Is your partner asking for more attention that you perhaps gave when you were still dating? Those are things that you need to look at. And if your children come first, you need to tell your partner that. I know Geoff and I were interviewed a couple of years ago on a radio show in Chicago, and the radio host asked, do I, Poppy, put Geoff first? And I said, no, my children come first because they were here first before we got back together. And
Poppy made that clear that while it was thrilling and exciting for us to fall back in love after being apart for 32 years, if there was a real problems between the children and me, and vice versa,
we would not
with
be
my
married.
son, that could absolutely stop the relationship from moving forward. And as, of course, I'm sure you can imagine, that wasn't at all the case. And part of the reason, and I'm not trying to pat either myself or Poppy on the back here, children sense when their parents are happy.
And there's harmony,
and
right?
There's harmony. They see that.
And they also sense when there's tension.
And that's where you'll see the pushback. If there's some real problems, that's when the pushback takes place.
So communicate that with your partner. Be open, be honest as best you can. It seems counterintuitive, but the more open and vulnerable you are, the stronger and deeper your connection with your partner will be for both of you.
Okay, number 8, the inability to plan for future travel or events because they are still allowing their ex to control their behavior.
So often we've seen this. Individuals come to us in counseling and they're saying, I don't know what to do. When we were first dating, and this is usually the woman, he said he's going to move in with me and the kids are going to come on every other weekend when he has them, and they're going to stay in my home, and it's great. But he promised me that we would go to Hawaii. And 3 years later, that still hasn't happened.
There's always an excuse.
The ex is always calling. And so there's no boundaries established. And it's a really, again, the open and heart-healthy communication is absolutely key. But besides divorce proceedings that impede making future plans, once the ex is legally an ex, you and your partner should be able to make plans. If the ex is going against a parenting contract, your partner may have to regain legal counsel.
Pull the lawyer back in again.
You have to, especially if the parenting plan. I know the parenting plans, and we do this also. We offer help with mediation and parenting plans. If you do have a parenting plan that says, maybe in the summertime that each party gets the kids 2 weeks out of the summer, or a month, or whatever, make sure that you and your partner leverage that time where the kids are with the ex so that you can have time together.
Okay. Number 9, that you keep holding on to tangible things. A lot of us have had these things, those boxes of all those cards, all the love letters, all the Valentine's cards, Christmas cards,
ticket stubs
to great things you shared with.
Even like we had a client that came in and said she had resort brochures that she went to on vacations with the ex. And these boxes and totes crammed full with memorabilia suggests they can't stop looking in the rearview mirror. It's
very hard when you first, these things represented something very special. They represented a life, they represented love, they represented all kinds of great events. But as wonderful as those things might have been, they represent something that's no longer there. And so it's not fair to the new relationship to kind of keep those things going.
Right, and oftentimes...
And it might take time. It might take a little bit of time, but eventually you need to be saying, you know what, these things are not part of my life anymore.
And there's going to be dozens of family photos with children, grandparents, generations, and the ex is going to be in there. And, really communicate with your partner and say, okay, I accept this. That is part of their life. But if it's the two of them off on a ski trip or at the beach alone, walking hand in hand on the beach, that photo doesn't really need to be hanging around. So whether you and your partner can comb through it together and in a healthy way keep 1 or 2 items, that's fine. But we suggest that you do it together. And your partner doesn't have to explain why I want to keep this one. But if there's more than 1 or 2, you may need to start over again and look back.
And you might also realize and looking at all these items that some of them really aren't that important at all, that they're just a very simple token card and nothing that's special about it.
And some people say, this is still too emotional. Maybe the divorce or the breakup was recent. And so you could say, okay, let's just take a break. They could be a Myers-Briggs, an INFP. If they can't part with the volumes of material, just gently push it aside and maybe agree to relook at it in a month. And if it's still hard for your partner to toss photos of the two of them at a Saturday afternoon baseball game, examine your partner's trepidation, and you can do that with them. They may not be ready to be in a relationship with you just yet. Maybe they need some more time.
And they might need further counseling. It might be that the two of you need to go see someone and talk about it and sort through it.
And so, in what you can do is, and say that's okay. It seems, again, counterintuitive, but when you give your ex that permission, especially if their Myers-Briggs letter ends in a P, they need more time. They may not be ready to be in a relationship with you just yet, but as Geoff said, when we counseled that other client a while back, a couple of years ago, they were like, oh, okay. It felt very freeing to give permission and time to make that decision to say, yep, I'm ready to sever this old relationship and all that comes with it. And then I'm coming into this new relationship with you at 100%. I'm all in. And that's so critical to give your partner that leeway.
And that little expression we just threw in, we hear a lot of it about, I'm all in. That's what this whole conversation is about, basically. Are you all in or not? If you're still holding on to old things, and this takes us to the last point number 10.
And it just is, then if you're still holding on, you take the time you need, and you honor and respect your partner to take the time that he or she needs.
Sure. Again, they're saying, so number 10, you're still consumed with the ex. And so in conversations, the ex's name pops up in your daily discussions.
Just casually.
And their name shouldn't be popping up on a regular basis.
Bring their attention to with non-blaming statements. That's so true, because otherwise you're going to get in this tense, toxic verbal thing where no one hears anybody. And you could say something like, I'm really super excited to be in this relationship with you, and because I care so much about you, I wanted to share with you something that I just noticed. I hear you mention Chris's name regularly when we're talking. I wondered, did you notice it too? And what can we do to minimize that? Or is this something that you don't want to minimize? Maybe you don't. And maybe you need some more time. And I'll be there for you when you've taken the time. Why don't you take a month or two and see if I'm really someone that you want to spend some more time with.
Right. So with all these signs, it's completely appropriate for you to tell the ex you'll be there for them when, or not the ex, but the person
your partner,
your partner in the relationship with, you'll be there for them when they've unpacked their bags.
Yes.
when they're done. You know, you might be willing to help your partner, and it's very important that you put your own time frame on your expectations. And there shouldn't be with ultimatums attached. You can lovingly share your concerns with your partner, respect their challenging journey that they're on.
And also to state your threshold of wait time until they can fully be in a relationship with you. So when entering into a new relationship, we suggest upgrading with new suitcases.
New luggage.
So if you want a thorough understanding of yours and your partner's Myers-Briggs preferences as it relates to you in a very specific relationship, please contact us at poppyandgeoff.com. That's poppyandgeoff.com. And we'll discount the assessment for you when you mention that you heard this on the podcast, on podcast 55.
And again, this is something we so enjoy doing with people, taking them through these exercises of the Myers-Briggs and explaining all the different aspects of how their different indications can really affect how they react in relationships.
You know, the human brain is so complex and it has a lot of bandwidth. And so this is just one more teeny piece of information that helps us sort out those complicated, messy relationships that we find ourselves into. And it really does help put things in a really clearer perspective and offers us productive, heart-healthy communication.
And that will be it for our episode 55. We hope these 10 points are helpful to you to understand if you're fully in a relationship and or things that might be holding you back.
We'll repeat it real quick one more time. So the 10 signs that your past relationship can actually sabotage your relationship today. Number 1, still talking with the ex. 2, there's intimacy challenges. 3, we have locked devices. 4, there's an introductory fail when you're making introductions in a social or professional setting. Number 5
is the partner is not yet divorced and they just can't seem to get there.
Number 6, they project their past relationships onto you.
Issues.
Yeah, and their issues.
And number 7, your partner's not open to being with your kids or family members.
Number 8,
their inability to plan for future travel or events because they are still allowing the ex to control their behavior.
And number 9, holding on to those tangible things, cards, photos, memorabilias, stuff like that. And number 10 was just consumed with the ex. The name comes up often in conversations.
So we thank you for joining us on this episode, and we look forward to hearing from you. We love it when people reach out, and after they hear these episodes, ask us questions about them.
And share your stories. We'd love to hear if you have any challenges. We'd love to help you solve them. You have a 30-minute free consultation with us anytime you want. It's poppyandgeoff.com again, poppyandgeoff.com. Reach out to us. We'd love to share with you.
Until next time, we're Poppy and Geoff, and this has been episode 55 of The Relationship Restaurant. See ya.
Bye.